Hello everybody. Firstly, I hope you all like my new 2019 channel name, Hypozilla. I don't know. I spent 40 minutes trying to look for a name, and that's all I could find. It's, my brain kind of went blank, and yeah. Anyway, today I thought we'd do a bit of reading, and what I thought was my favourite book and my favourite bit in the book, and this is Michael Crichton's The Lost World. Yes, the front cover did come off. I actually put that on my wall, but we're going to be reading the chapter Village, and I've got Carnotaurus on the screen for a very good reason. And yeah. So this is, in simple words, how the Camouflaging Carnotaurus it would have been amazing if it was interpreted into the film. I have a massive forehead. I'm just realising this now. Alright, so I'm going to be reading from page 377, which is a tiny bit into it. It's a page and a half into it. Well, 2.5 pages into the chapter bit, whatever. So, foreign move. I heard that voice crack. Right, start again. Fawn moved off to one side with Levine. Levine was wild-eyed, his body moving in a twitchy way. The drive in the jeep seemed to have finished him off. "What is she talking about?" he said. "We're trapped here. Trapped!" There was hysteria in his voice. "We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. I'm telling you, we're all going to die." "Keep it down," Fawn said, grabbing his arm, leaning in close. "Don't upset the kids." "What difference does it make?" Levine said. "They're going to find out sooner or later." "Or, ow! Take it easy." Fawn was squeezing his arm hard. He leaned close to Levine. "You're too old to act like a douchebag," he said quietly. "Now pull yourself together, Richard. Are you listening to me?" "Richard." Levine nodded. "Good. Now, Richard, I'm going to go outside and see if the pumps work." "They can't possibly work," Levine said. "Not after 5 years. I'm telling you, it's a waste of—" "Richard," Vaughan said, "we have to check the pumps." There was a pause. The two men looked at each other. "You mean you're going outside?" Levine said. "Yes." Levine frowned. Another pause. "Crouched over Robbie," Sarah said. "Where are the lights, guys?" "Just a minute," Vaughan said to her. He leaned close to Levine. "Okay?" "Okay," Levine said, taking a breath. Vaughan went to the front door, opened it, and stepped out into darkness. Levine closed the door behind him. Vaughan heard a click as the door locked. He immediately turned and rapped softly. Levine opened the door a few inches, peering out. "For Christ's sake," Vaughan whispered, "don't lock it." "But I just thought—" "Don't lock the damn door." Okay, I'm sorry." "For Christ's sake," Vaughan said. He closed the door again and turned to face the night. Around him, the worker village was silent. He heard only the steady drone of cycads in the darkness. It seemed almost too quiet, he thought, but perhaps it was just a contrast from the snarling raptors. Thorne stood with his back to the door for a long time. Staring out at the opening, he saw nothing. Finally, he walked over to the jeep, opened the side door, and fumbled in the dark for the radio. His hand touched it. It had slid under the passenger seat. He pulled it out and carried it back to the store, knocking on the door. The vine opened it. It said, "It's not locked." "Here." Thorne handed him the radio, closed the door again. Again, he paused, watching. Around him, the compound was silent. The moon was full. The air was still. He moved forward and peered closely at the gas pumps. The handle of the nearest one was rusted and draped with spiderwebs. He pulled the nozzle up and flicked the latch. Nothing happened. He squeezed the nozzle handle. No liquid came out. He tapped on the glass window on the pump that showed the number in gallons, and the glass fell out in his hand. Inside, a spider scurried across the metal numerals. There was no gas. They had to find gas, or they'd never get to the helicopter. He frowned at the pumps, thinking. They were simple, the kind of very reliable pumps you found at a remote construction site, and that made sense, because after all, this was an island. He paused. This was an island. That meant everything came in by plane or boat, most times probably by boat. Small boats, where supplies were offloaded by hand, which meant he bent over, examining the base of the pump in the moonlight, just as he thought. There were no buried gas tanks. He saw a thick black PVC pipe running at an angle just under the ground. He could see the direction the pipe was going, around the side of the store. Thorne followed it, moving cautiously in the moonlight. He paused for a moment to listen, then moved on. He came around to the side and saw what he expected to see. 50-gallon metal drums, ranged alongside the wall. There were 3 of them, connected by a series of black hoses. That made sense. All the gasoline on the island would have had to come here in drums. He tapped the drums softly with a knuckle. They were hollow. He lifted one, hoping to hear the slosh of liquid at the bottom. They needed only a gallon or 2. Nothing. The drums were empty. But surely, he thought, there must have been more than 3 drums. He did a quick calculation in his head. A lab this large would have had half a dozen support vehicles, maybe more. Even if they were fuel efficient, they'd burn 30 gallons or more. 40 gallons a week. To be safe, the company would have stored at least 2 months' supply, perhaps 6 months' supply. That meant 10 to 30 drums, and steel drums were heavy, so they probably stored them close by, probably just a few yards. He turned slowly, looking. The moonlight was bright, and he could see well. Beyond the store there was an open space, and then clumps of tall rhododendron, I'll look it up, which had overgrown the path leading to the tennis court. Above the bushes, the chain-link fence was laced with creeping vines. To the left was the first of the worker cottages. He could see only the dark roof. To the right of the court, near the store, there were thick foliage all around. Although he saw a gap, a path. He moved forward, leaving the store behind. Approaching the dark gap in the bushes, he saw a vertical line and realised it was the edge of an open wooden door. There was a shed, back in the foliage. The other door was closed. As he came closer, he saw a rusted metal sign with flaking red lettering. Letters were black in the moonlight. Precaution. Non-fumable inflammable. He paused, listening. He heard the raptors snarling in the distance, but they seemed far away, back up on the hill. For some reason, they had still not approached the village. Thorne waited, heart pounding, staring forward at the dark entrance to the shed. At least he hadn't decided it was going to get any easier. They needed gas. He moved forward. The path to the shed was wet from the night's rain, but the shed was dry inside. His eyes adjusted. It was a small place, perhaps 12 by 12. In the dim light he saw a dozen rusted drums standing on end, 3 or 4 more on their sides. Thorn touched them all quickly, one after another. They were empty. Every one empty. Feeling defeated, Thorn moved back towards the entrance to the shed. He paused for a moment, staring out in the moonlight, and then, as he waited, he heard the unmistakable sound of breathing. Inside the store, Levine moved from window to window, trying to follow Thorn's progress. His body was jumping with tension. What was Thorn doing? He had gone so far from the store. It was very unwise. Levine kept glancing at the front door, wishing he could lock it. He felt so unsafe with the door unlocked. Now Thorn had gone off into the bushes, disappearing entirely from view, and he had been gone a long time, at least a minute or two. Levine stared out the window and bit his lip. He heard the distant snarl of the raptors and realised that they had remained up at the entrance to the laboratory. They hadn't followed the vehicles down, even now. Why not? He wondered. The question was welcome in his mind, calming, almost soothing. Question to answer. Why had the raptors stayed up at the laboratory? All kinds of explanations occurred to him. The raptors had an atavistic fear of the laboratory, the place of their birth. They remembered the cages and didn't want to be captured again. But he suspected the most likely explanation was also the simplest, that the area around the laboratory was some other animal's territory. It was scent marked and demarked and defended, and the raptors were reluctant to enter it. Even the Tyrannosaur, he remembered now, had gone through the territory quickly without stopping. But whose territory? Vine stared out at the window impatiently as he waited. What about the lights? Eric called from across the room. I need light here. In a minute, Levine said. At the entrance to the shed, Thorn stood quietly, listening. He heard soft, snorting exhalations, like a quiet horse, a large animal, waiting. The sound was coming from somewhere to his right. Thorn looked over quickly. He saw nothing at all. Moonlight shone brightly over the worker village. He saw the store, the gas pumps, the dark shape of the jeep. Looking to his right, he saw an open space and clumps of rhododendron bushes. The tennis court beyond. Nothing else. He stared, listening for it. The soft snorting continued, hardly louder than a faint breeze. But there was no breeze. The trees and bushes were not moving. Or were they? Thorn had the sense that something was wrong. Something right before his eyes. Something that he could see, but couldn't see. With the effort of staring, he began to think his eyes were playing tricks on him. He thought he had detected a slight movement in the bushes to the right. The pattern of the leaves seemed to shift in the moonlight, shift and stabilize again, but he wasn't sure. Thorn stared forward, straining, and as he looked, he began to think that it wasn't the bushes that had caught his eye, but rather the chain-link fence. Most of its length, the fence was overgrown with an irregular tangle of vines, but in a few places the regular diamond pattern of links was still visible. And there was something strange about that pattern. The fence seemed to be moving, rippling. Thorn watched carefully. Maybe it is moving, he thought. Maybe there's an animal inside the fence pushing against it, making it move. But that didn't seem quite right. It was something else. Suddenly, lights came on inside the store. They shone through the barred windows, casting a geometric pattern of dark shadows across the open clearing and onto the bushes by the tennis court. And for a moment, just a moment, Thorn saw that the bushes beside the tennis court were oddly shaped, and that there were actually 2 dinosaurs, 7 feet tall, standing side by side, staring right at him. Their bodies seemed to be covered in a patchwork pattern of light and dark that made them blend in perfectly with leaves behind them. And with the fence of the tennis court, Thorn was confused. The concealment had been perfect, too perfect, until the lights from the store with the windows had shone out and caught them in the sudden bright glare. Vaughan watched, holding his breath. By the way, I had to change the... basically I ran out of time on the previous clip, so I added a different clip. Oh, the brightness on this thing is really bright. That's why my face looks really shiny. It's like, it wouldn't normally be this shiny. It's like, you know, it's like that's better. And that's just too close. Anyway, Vaughan watched, holding his breath, and then he realised that the leafy light and dark pattern went only part way up their bodies to mid-thorax. Above that, the animals had a kind of diamond-shaped crisscross pattern that matched the fence, and as Vaughan stared, the complex patterns on their bodies faded. The animals turned to a chalky white. A series of vertical striped shadows began to appear, which exactly matched the shadows cast by the windows. And before his eyes, the two dinosaurs disappeared from view again. Squinting with concentrated effort, he could just barely distinguish the outlines of their bodies. He would never have been able to see them at all, had he not only known they were there. They were chameleons, but with the power of mimicry unlike any chameleon Vaughan had ever seen. Slowly he backed away into the shed, moving in deeper into darkness. "My God!" Levine exclaimed, staring out the window. "Sorry," Harding said, "but I had to turn on the lights. That boy needs help. I can't do it in the dark." Levine did not answer it. He was staring out the window, trying to comprehend what he had just seen. He now realised what he had glimpsed the day Diego was killed. That brief moment into a sense that something was wrong. Levine now knew what it was, but it was quite beyond anything what was known among terrestrial animals. And "What is it?" she said, standing alongside him at the window. "Is it Vaughan?" "Look," Levine said. She stared out through the wall. "The bushes? What am I supposed to do?" "Look." She watched for a moment longer, and then shook her head. "Start at the bottom of the bushes," Levine told her. "Then let your eyes move up slowly. Very slowly. Just look, and you'll see the outline." He heard her sigh. "I'm sorry. Then turn out the lights again," he said, "and you'll see." She turned the lights out, and for a moment Levine saw the two animals in sharp relief, their bodies pale white with vertical stripes in the moonlight. Almost immediately, the pattern started to fade. Harding came back, pushed in alongside him, and this time she saw the animals instantly, just as Levine knew she would. "No crap," she said. "There are two of them?" "Yes, side by side." "And is the pattern fading?" "Yes, it's fading." As they watched, the striped pattern on their skins was replaced by the leafy pattern of the leaves, because I'm not saying that word again. Behind them, once again, the two dinosaurs blended into invisibility, but such complex patterning implied that their epidermal layers were arranged in a manner similar to the chromatophores of marine invertebrates. The subtlety of shading, the rapidity of the changes all suggested. Harding frowned. "What are they?" She asked. "Chameleons of unparalleled skill, officer, although I'm not sure this one is entirely justified referring to them as chameleons, since technically chameleons have only the ability to..." "What are they?" Sarah said impatiently. "Actually, I'd say the Carnotaurus asterae, type specimens from Patagonia, 3 meters in height with distinctive heads. You notice the short bulldog snouts and the pair of large horns above their eyes, almost like wings. They're carnivores?" "Yes, of course they have the..." "Where's Vaughan?" "He went into that clump of bushes to the right some time ago. I ain't seen him, but..." "What do we do?" I need to... What do we do? She said. Do? Levine said. I'm not sure I follow you. We have to do something, she said, speaking slowly as if he were a child. We have to help Fawn get back. I don't know how, Levine said. Those animals must weigh 500 pounds each, and there are 2 of them. I told him not to go out in the first place, but no. Horning frowned, staring out. She said, "Go turn the lights back on. I'd prefer to go turn the lights back on." Levine got up irritably. He had been relishing his remarkable discovery, truly unanticipated feature of dinosaurs, although not, of course, entirely without precedent among related vertebrates, and now this little muscle-bound female was barking orders at him. Levine was offended. After all, she was not much of a scientist. She was a naturalist. I feel devoid of theory. One of those people who poked around in animal crap and imagined they were doing original research. Nice outdoor life is all it amounted to. It wasn't science by any stretch. On, Harding shouted, staring out the windows. He flipped the lights on and started to head back to the window. Off. Hastily he went back and turned them off. On. He turned them on again. She got up from the window across the room. Didn't like that, she said. It bothered them. Well, there's probably a refractory period. I need to send a clip of that. Right. This is hopefully the last time I have to actually send the clip again. Hastily he went back. I'm already past that. It bothered them. Well, there's probably a refractory period. Yeah, I think so. Here, open these. She scooped up a handful of flashlights from one of the shelves, handed them to him, and went and got batteries from an adjacent wire rack. I hope these still work. What are you going to do? Levine said. We, she said grimly. We. Fawn stood in the darkness of the shed, staring outward through the open doors. Someone had been trying to turn the lights off and on and off inside the store. Then for a while they remained on, but now suddenly they went off again. The area in front of the shed was lit only by moonlight. He heard movement, a soft rustling. He heard the breathing again, and then he saw the 2 dinosaurs walking upright with stiff tails. The skin pattern seemed to shift as they walked, and it was difficult to follow them, but they were moving toward the shed. They arrived at the entrance, their bodies silhouetted against the moonlight beyond, the outlines finally clear. They looked like small tyrannosaurs, except they had protuberances above the eyes, and they had very small, stubby forelimbs. The carnivores stuck their squarish heads down and looked into the shed cautiously, snorting, sniffing. Their tails swinging slowly behind them. They were really too big to come inside, and for a moment he hoped that they would not. Then the first of them lowered its head, growled, and stepped through the entrance. Fawn held his breath. He was trying to think what to do, but he couldn't think of anything at all. Suddenly, from along the side of the store, half dozen glaring lights shone out in bright beams. The lights moved, splashed on the dinosaurs' bodies. The beams began to move back and forth in slow, erratic patterns like searchlights. The dinosaurs were clearly visible, and they didn't like it. They growled and tried to step away from the lights, but the beams moved continuously, searching them out, crisscrossing over their bodies. As the lights passed over their torsos, the skin paled in response, reproducing the movement of the beams. After the lights had moved on, the bodies streaking white faded into dark, streaking white again. The lights never stopped moving, except when they shone into the faces of the dinosaurs and into their eyes. The big eyes blinked beneath their hooded wings. The animal twitched their heads and ducked away, as if annoyed by flies. The dinosaurs became agitated. They returned backing out of the shed and bellowed loudly at the moving lights. Still the lights moved, relentlessly swinging back and forth. but it was half-hearted. That they clearly didn't like being around these moving sources. After a moment, they shuffled off, lights following them, driving them away past the tennis courts. Vaughan moved forward. He heard Aaron say, "Doc, better get out of there before they decide to come back." Vaughan moved quickly towards the lights. He found himself standing beside Lord Levine and Harding. They were swinging fast fistfuls of flashlights back and forth. They all went back to the store. Okay. There's still a bit more to that chapter, but that is my favourite chapter in the book. And I really want to. Wish I could see that in the Lost World, and they were going to do that, but they kind of changed everything last minute. Next time, I kind of want to do the death of Dodgson. And that will always be a. But yeah. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you liked what you saw in this what if you like what I read, it's the Lost World Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. Obviously, it's my favourite book of all time. And yes, I will see you all next time. This has been Hyperzilla. Peace out.